So, I'm back. Sorry, work got crazy, so I had to put a pause on it for 1 second. Sorry, just trying to get this correct for you guys. Work that way. Try it this way. All right. Okay. Opportunity to have discussions. It's really important to have open discussions when you're discussing any kind of bias, unconscious bias or bias within itself. You want to be able to be comfortable enough to have those conversations with people, especially who are not in your socially aware like you are, or someone who thinks differently or socially different than you are. These are helpful. Sharing your own personal biases can help other people feel secure about exploring their own biases. So, having that open forum, even if you're having it with someone that you're working with, or someone in your caseload, you want to be able to share your own personal biases so that they're comfortable sharing theirs. And it's an open field where you guys can have a conversation and you guys are able to figure out what steps can we do next. What can we do next to make this better for all of us? We want to make sure that these conversations are in safe places where individuals feel that this is an alternative perspective of what they think and how they feel and their viewpoints, but they're safe to say that. They feel comfortable and they feel safe to say those things. Having facilitated discussions, that's also a great way to uh, discuss different it's also a great way to discuss and promote different ways how people thinking, different biases. Um, Creating small training sessions where it's not just one person saying, hey, this is what we need to do, this is how it should be done. It's, hey, okay, this is what the problem is, this is what we're seeing, or this is what could be an issue. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out how we can make this work. Using these concepts and these techniques, they are effective, and they will minimize any type of unconscious bias or a regular bias in itself. There is evidence that does provide that the unconscious bias training for faculty members or case workers or social workers, anyone along those lines in either mental health or in education, it does, these trainings do reduce the impact of the bias in the workplace. So it is really good to have some type of a training or some type of a group discussion, maybe on a professional development day, where you guys are able to have these open concepts and open conversations. What are different types of unconscious bias? There are a few, but there are three big ones that everyone kind of hits on without even knowing that they're doing it. There's the attribution bias, beauty bias, and confirmation bias. So, attribution bias contributes to how we assess others and their achievements. Um, Basically, we probably do this every day and we don't even realize it. The unconscious bias person is going to evaluate or try to understand why another person behaves the way they do. That means that the person is going to try to make attributions or assumptions about certain people based on their actions. I know that I do see I work at a school, so I see a lot of teachers who do that with kids who have behavior issues. They base their behaviors on their grades based on their behaviors, or their behaviors is based on something else. And they don't even realize that they're doing it. And I've, in meetings have stopped, hey, okay, we get it. I understand that they have this behavior. So how are we going to help them get through it? What are some goals that we can reach that are obtainable for them in the next 6 weeks that they can get? Let's think of the positive from this. That sounds like they have leadership qualities. So those are the kind of things that people do without even knowing, without even realizing that to do. They're thinking that they're helping. Of course, the beauty bias. Um, associated with goodness. There are studies suggest that people make major decisions based on how attractive other people look. Heard that many times, where people, feel like they didn't get a job, or I've had students who felt like, well, I didn't dress appropriately, or I didn't look the part, so I didn't get it. A new study suggests that this is because people assume positive moral traits are tied to good looks. This injustice results from the general misconception that more attractive people are more honest and intelligent. People often make assumptions without actually realizing they have a subconscious beauty bias. Even children are considered to be smarter and more driven if they are more attractive. In schools, we see this often, where we have uh, kids who may look a certain way. Um, and a lot of teachers do, not on purpose, but do associate how their appearance with how smart they are, or what they're able to complete in a day. And if I set goals for certain kids, they're like, well, they're not going to meet them. That's just too hard for them. And I'm like, well, why? They're smart enough, they could do it. Just, I don't understand. So it's done not to be malicious, but it's done very often. We don't even realize that we're doing it. And even in conversations, sometimes we don't see how we are responding or how we're acting towards other kids or other people. Okay, sorry, I had to flip the camera around. It's driving me crazy. Okay, so the last type is the confirmation bias. So basically, confirmation bias is our tendency to seek out or interpret evidence in such a way that supports our own strongly held beliefs or exceptions. So basically, that means that we are giving access to the same set of data and information. Different people can come to with wildly different conclusions. So whatever we're saying, people are going to make their own assumptions, their own conclusions to what we're saying. This is why when we have conversations, it's so important to have face-to-face conversations so you can really understand what the person is saying, seeing their body language, seeing their facial expressions. We don't want to make assumptions on what we hear or what we're reading, just what we're reading out. We have to be able to really assess the entire situation.